from LPI Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. It's R&R on Sports with Uncle Howard, Howard Robertson.
You will only see Tony Romo this season if something happens to Dak Prescott.
Jennifer Conroy.
There are less pieces on the Raiders. There's been the move, and the whole culture has kind of had to shift into LA out of St. Louis.
And the magnificent Larry Robinson.
I think this whole concept of college football playoffs is an absolute travesty.
It's R&R on Sports.
Hello and welcome to a little R&R on Sports. I'm Howard Robertson.
And I'm Jennifer JC. And I am the magnificent, the wonderful, the fantastic Larry Robinson. What's up, America? How you doing today?
Was that your Jennifer Conroy impression? Or you just going through puberty? Which is it? I need to know.
Well, you know, our compadre in crime is, I think she got some more dog trouble. What you think? But I thought I would do my best impersonation.
I thought it was gas. Did the dog have gas?
Yeah,
it was a gas leak. I thought it was the house. Was it the dog?
I think it was the dog. I think it was the dog with the gas leak.
Nah, a dog with a gas leak needs some attention, Jack.
Shut it down, brother.
I'm telling you. Major matchups.
What's up, brother?
Matchups coming up. This weekend, the finals of the Australian Open will feature, for the 9th time, the Williams sisters.
Wow.
Serena and Venus.
Wow.
Venus has made it. Is she back?
Man, I don't think she's back. I really don't think she's back, but she's back for this.
She's been beaten, and she had a harder road than Serena.
She's got that autoimmune disorder that she has going on. So the trail or the journey to get to this high level of tennis that she's playing has been very arduous without a doubt.
Hey.
Without a doubt. You have a 36-year-old, and I think Venus is, 34 somewhere around there?
Yeah.
They're playing at such a high level.
Definitely.
At this stage of their career.
Definitely.
I mean, you're talking about Venus. Serena, if she beats Venus, she will return to the #1 ranking in the world. How does this happen?
Yeah.
Is it black don't crack?
Two little girls from Compton.
Is it black don't crack? Black don't crack.
We know this. This we know. Your game obviously doesn't crack either. So that's the matchup. So we'll see what happens in that. I mean, I don't want to jinx anything by telling America that of the losses that Venus has had in her career, most of them have come at the hands of her sister.
No. The losses Serena has had is been at the hands of Venus. Because Venus has beaten Serena more than any other tennis player.
It's also
in history.
Vice versa.
Well, that too.
Versa.
That too. Yeah. You're right.
Nobody has beaten Venus as much as Serena has. So ain't that something?
11 times Venus done whooped that tail.
Hey man. And then of course it's the other matchup that we've got: the Falcons and the Patriots.
Man, I picked them, right?
Get out of here.
I did.
I didn't want to mention it. I picked who?
I picked
the
Patriots and the Falcons
to
return to the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, man.
Quit lying.
What do you mean?
You picked Green Bay.
No, I did not.
Yes,
you heard
did.
me wrong. I said Patriots, not Packers.
Run the tape.
Patriots.
Reggie.
And then I said that the Falcons were going to fly high with the dirty bird.
Delusional again. I'm the only one last week that said, that the Falcons would be in the Super Bowl, and they are. So we'll see what's going to happen with that.
Is Brady the greatest?
No.
What?
No.
Wait a minute.
Greatest
quarterback.
Patriot.
Greatest
the
quarterback
greatest Patriot
in the history
quarterback
of the game.
all time.
He's been
Tom
to 7
Brady.
Super Bowls, brother. 7.
Tom Brady.
He is old.
I messed his name
but he
up.
looks good.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything. He doesn't drink coffee. He doesn't drink alcohol. I mean, he looks great. He damn near looks like when he came into the league. The brother looks good, and he's done a great job with his body. I say Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback in the history of NFL.
Greatest quarterback in the history of the New England Patriots. And that's the qualification. And speaking of qualifications, we are highly qualified today with a great show, and we're going to be back with more on the other side of this. Football fans know some things just go together. Quarterbacks and receivers, face paint and superfans, game days and tailgates. State Farm agent Emerson Abel knows another winning combination, home and auto. Emerson and his team are here to help your life go right when you combine your home and auto insurance, which saves you time and money. So get your home and auto on the same team and score some savings with State Farm agent Emerson Abel, 901-837-7400.
Hey, this is Ice. I'm the original gangster. And whenever I'm hanging out with Coco, when we just chilling on Saturdays, we always listening to Howard and Larry on R&R on Sports. You know what I'm saying?
I am a nightmare walking, psychopath talking. King of my jungle, just a gangster stalking, living life like a firecracker, quick as my fuse. Been dead as a death, back the colors I choose. Red or blue because of...
Hello and welcome to the Greater Holy Fire Church, where football is a religion.
He's the Right Reverend Leroy T. Linebacker.
And he's my trusted deacon, Billy Ray Blitz. Today, friends, we're on assignment up here in Massachusetts at the home of Tom Brady. We've been sent here to perform an exorcism to exorcise out that heathen spirit of lying and cheating.
Amen.
Ring the doorbell, deacon.
I don't believe he's here, Reverend, but the door is unlocked. Oh my, Reverend, this is such a palatial mansion. Oh, look, here's a needle on the floor.
What kind of needle?
An air needle for a ball. But how we gonna exercise when he's not here?
Well, Deacon, I've been doing this a long time. And what we'll do is exercise something close to him, and that works just as well. Grab that pillow off his bed, and we'll use that.
Okay, Reverend.
Okay, let me hold it here with your hands here. We rebuke the demon of lying and cheating out of Tom Brady.
Wow.
Lucifer, loose him.
Loose him.
Beelzebub, back your ass up.
Back that thing up.
Satan, set your ass down.
Sit down now,
Loose
Satan.
him. Loose him.
Loose him.
We rebuke him.
Reverend, I'm feeling something, Reverend.
Are you? Oh, Lord. I'm just too good. I messed around and exorcised the demon out of the deacon.
Woohoo! Woohoo! I got running in my feet, Reverend.
Wait, watch that plate glass. Amen.
Hey, this is Dr. J.
Hi, this is Rika Ketchum.
This is John Honger, Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Memphis Grizzlies. Tim Brown, NFL Hall of Fame inductee. You are listening to R&R on Sports.
This is Willie O'Ree, the first black player to play in the National Hockey League, and you are listening to R&R on Sports.
And we are back. Back. Now, let's see.
Where do you want to start?
In the NBA, here's the obvious. Russell Westbrook was not a first-team All-Star pick.
Why is that?
He is a he's a backup.
Well,
right?
now you don't know that, but I mean, we will know that by the time this show comes out. But he will probably be a reserve, and it's really a travesty that someone who recently just passed Larry Bird for the most triple doubles. I think Larry had 60 triple doubles. Now Russell Westbrook has like 61, 62, somewhere around in there. But I mean, I can't believe that Russell Westbrook is not a starter with the most triple doubles in obviously the last 20 years.
I don't know why you can't believe it, because it is not based on, it's a popularity contest.
Not necessarily, not with them adding in the players vote. Now they've added in the players vote.
It's a popularity contest among the players.
Well,
and I think that
I don't think so. I think it's less a popularity contest with the players because he was voted number one by the players. He was voted number one by the league executives, and then he was voted, I think, 3 or 4 by the fans.
But the reality is that there's more than a little Westbrook hate out there.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And then you got to look at the markets. You know, you got Stephen Curry, which I don't think Stephen Curry has had a stellar beginning first half of the year. Although
but he's popular. But he's
very popular, and I think kids identify with Stephen Curry more than they identify with a Russell Westbrook or anybody like a LeBron James for that matter. But nevertheless, Stephen Curry won. But I think also markets play a role because you got OKC, Oklahoma City, with one of the smaller markets in the NBA, and then you have San Francisco, Oakland with Golden State, that which I'm sure played a major role in all the surrounding areas and probably all across the country as it relates to Stephen Curry.
Oh, I hope for his sake that Russell doesn't have what I would call now a little President Trump in him.
I bet you shoots every time he touched the ball.
That needs supporting all the time, every day, because he does have a popularity issue in terms of that. Now, this does not speak at all to his stats, but when it comes to All-Star and stuff like that, it's a popularity contest.
Well, I tell you what, for what he's been able to accomplish, I believe he should have been written in as a starter. Russell Westbrook will be a starter in the NBA.
Okay, so
in the NBA All-Star.
As I understand, a Carmelo trade is imminent.
Pretty much. They're saying that Phil Jackson has pretty much put his cards on the table with Kristaps Porzingis and saying that Kristaps is the man and that Kristaps will be the man in the future. And so Carmelo Anthony is really an impediment to that process of maturation for Kristaps. So he's reached out to the Cavs and tried to broker a Kevin Love for a Carmelo Anthony deal, which was rebuffed by the Cavs and said Kevin Love's not going anywhere. And now he's reaching out to the Clippers and what's the other team? It was the Clippers and Boston.
Now, how does this play with the current tiff that LeBron has with Cavs management?
Well,
and ownership.
Now, to me, that is a very interesting thing because I believe that LeBron's reaction to the fact that they need a point guard has been really out of character. I mean, and they're talking about, I don't know where it became about him paying for the fact that they want the payroll issue has now become the issue that the agreement between he and Dan Gilbert prior to him coming back to Cleveland was that Dan Gilbert would spend indiscriminately based on the salary cap. And
at this point, he's spent more than anybody else in the NBA.
Absolutely, and then got the luxury tax to prove it.
Right.
But in this case, LeBron, I think, is maybe complaining because he's looking at what's going on out west. They just came off a few weeks of getting their tail beat, a week or so of getting their tail beat by the Golden State Warriors.
Most recently the
Spurs and the Kings, and now they're of their last 8 games they've lost 6 of them.
Right.
So he's looking at them and looking out west and seeing what San Antonio's doing and what Golden State Warriors are doing.
And he is angry. He is angry. This, I mean,
very angry,
cussing and all.
Right. Which is out of character for him. Totally out of character for LeBron. But when you ask what the ramifications, I think ultimately LeBron, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwayne Wade will play together at some way, somehow, before their career is out. These 4 players will be on the same team. Now, we know that LeBron is 33, and the other players are somewhere around that age. I think Carmelo might be 34, 35. Yeah. You have Dwayne Wade is somewhere around 34, 35. So when you think about it in those terms, they're coming to the end of their career. So I'm wondering if there's an agenda here. I'm wondering if Carmelo's, if LeBron's acting out is in order to push an agenda. Because, number one, I've not seen many interviews where LeBron has been using, 4-letter words and really calling out franchises. I mean, if you go all the way back to the Cleveland days, you're not really many times that you can look back and say that LeBron has been demonstrative in calling out a team executives.
Well, back then
and
he wasn't the LeBron he is today.
Well, that's true. That's true. And so, I still look at it and say that there's another agenda. I believe there is. Mm-hmm. But all in all, LeBron's going to get what he wants. I know that. And if they need to get out there and get a point guard, which I think they have one in Chicago that they might be.
Will he ultimately get what he wants, which is, quite frankly, more rings?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think even
when
the
it's all
current
said
way,
and done,
when
it's
the
all
current
said and
way
done,
the team is constructed, I don't think Golden State can beat them in a 7-game series.
When it's all said and done, how many more rings, championship rings, do you see LeBron getting with the Cavs?
I will say 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Not with the Cavs. I wouldn't say specifically with the Cavs.
I'm saying with the Cavs.
With the Cavs, I think he'll at least get one more. At least get 1 or 2.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think he's legit, man. I mean, they got a phenomenal team. You have Kyrie Irving playing at a higher level, getting more assists. I think Kevin Love has found his way. I think the monkey wrench in this is J.R. Smith and him being hurt. Now that they got Kyle Culver, I think that's going to work exceptionally well for them. So I see the Cavs being able to compete. And at the end of the day, there's still nobody to check LeBron. At the end of the day, and he's going to be. I mean, and he's a triple-double waiting to happen.
They're going to need some help being able to best a team like Golden State. And
of course. Well, I don't think they need any more help than what they got. I still think I still don't think they can. Golden State can beat Cleveland in a 7-game series. Now, the team that I worry about, now.
Oh,
I think. I don't think they can beat them. I don't think they can beat them. I said that last year. No, it's not emotion.
That's fan talking.
No, it's not fan talking. It's literally you got the best player in the world that you can't double team. You can't double team. Period.
But they have more.
No, they don't have more. They don't have more.
Arsenal.
No, they don't. They have the same team they had last year. Added Durant with only one basketball.
Added Durant. Okay.
With one basketball. They got one basketball.
Okay. All right. That we can debate about that all the time, but let's see. We will see.
Well, listen,
we will see.
We got an amazing eye conversation with 2.
Yes.
We happen to participate in the Race and Sports event down at the National Civil Rights Museum.
Here in
and we have
Tennessee.
2 great interviews that we have from that event with
NBA greats.
Steve Smith, NBA TV analyst, and Grant Hill,
absolutely,
TNT and NBA TV analyst as well.
And that's coming right at you.
And you just dominated the whole daggone interview, man.
Excuse me. Who?
You did, man. It makes me sick.
Y'all check this out. We'll be back. This boy has lost his mind. After this.
R&R on Sports with Eye Conversation on location with NBA legend Grant Hill.
First of all, congratulations on the award. We're very, very happy to have you here. Talk about what you just saw on the tour and how you parallel what you just saw to today. Are there parallels, and if so?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'll full disclosure, I've been here before. I've gone through the tour, brought my children here.
Good.
Almost
since
2 years. Since the renovation. Okay. Yeah. Good. So, and we spent half the day going through. So really we're able to, explore and read a lot of the materials. And but today was great. A couple things I think come to mind. One, we are a visual world. Right. And as a history major, as someone who's read about a number of these events that were on display, it's one thing to read it, but to see it, the photographs, the photography, the videos, the exhibits, is powerful.
Right.
And it really, I think, resonates and it leaves an impression on you. And the fact that this museum encompasses the entire movement is there's a feeling and a spirit here that I think you really do feel. I think what's encouraging is as you walk through the diversity that's here, and there's people who are here and can feel that as well, and so you don't have to be of color. I think.
Was Ryan your tour guide?
Yeah, no, Ryan was our tour guide.
Ryan's working on his PhD.
Oh, he told us. He told us, yeah. No, so he's exceptional, and his memory and ability to answer questions. He's a great representative here.
Young brother.
Doing well, yeah. But I think it's important as we get further and further removed that we continue to talk about it, and we continue to bring people through here, young people. We have innovative, interactive exhibits which appeal and are attracted to young people. So, and then whatever side of the aisle you're on, I think some of the sentiment, some of the language that has been thrown around within this last year in the election cycle, it's just a reminder that we've made progress, but we still have a lot more progress to make, and so progress is not instant, it's not immediate, but it takes time, and so there's bumps along the way, and maybe we're in a bump right now, maybe not, but I believe we will ultimately get to that mountain or get over to the promised land, as to use Martin Luther King's.
Quick last question. I want to ask how, as a professional athlete, did you experience and or see racism and discrimination, and if so, how?
Well, I mean, that's a big question. I think, I think as a black man, more so as a man than as an athlete, I think one of the things that's interesting in sports, the talent sort of emerges.
Absolutely.
And regardless of who you are, regardless of how you've grown up, where you've grown up, the color of your skin, ultimately talent prevails.
I think somehow some people think that you being who you are, there's an immunity that goes with that. So,
yeah, I mean, look, it's part of the progress, and I do think, though, particularly the NBA, I think it's been very progressive, and if you sort of were to, and I'm not as knowledgeable about some of the other leagues, but I think in terms of coaches, front office positions, deputy commissioner. So I think the league has been at the forefront in a lot of ways on that. And I think, having interaction with an Adam Silver, he understands the importance of that. So, is it a utopia in sports and in reality? No, but I think it's a lot better than when my dad played, and so that's refreshing. And I'm fortunate that I have a father who did play and can get his perspective. And so it's encouraging to be a part of a league that sees it and really wants to do the right thing.
On Sports with iConversation, on location with NBA legend Steve Smith.
Chain, getting paid over here. Chain, getting paid over here. Thursday, baby, bring it over here. Thursday, baby, bring it over here. See my money maker, do my money maker. See my money maker, do my money.
Congratulations on the award, and talk about what you thought about the tour.
Well, it's fantastic. I came here, I say 10, 12 years ago before the renovation of the museum. So a totally different experience. our tour guide Ryan was phenomenal.
Ryan is excellent.
Excellent. So that tells me, because you lit up when we heard the lyric Ryan. Just being able to go through the history, a lot that you know, but then all the details and the questions you're able to ask Ryan, and he was right on the spot to be able to know some of the things. And then the moment that really weakened my knees was standing out on the balcony and actually standing in that spot. And I would say African American first, but I make home in Atlanta, so I'm friends with a lot of the King family's members, and obviously where Dr. Martin Luther King was born, just to, have that connection, that small connection, and to be a part of this is, can't wait to get back to tell my dad.
Outstanding. What was, other than the balcony, what stood out about the, as you looked at the journey and the experience of African Americans through the Civil Rights Movement? Anything else that stood out particularly?
You know what stands out for me, because I'm involved with the Civil and Human Rights Center and Museum in Atlanta, and then obviously get a chance to be here. What stands out is that all people, but most importantly African American people, would get a chance to have their history preserved, have some place where you get a chance to have it preserved. And obviously you love bringing wisdom when people tell you, but to get a chance to see, touch, and pretty much somewhat of the reenactment, you get a chance to feel what kind of, and somewhat of a small way, back when those things were happening.
If Dr. King was alive, what do you think his advice would be to us as the inauguration grows closer?
Well, I think one is obviously still nonviolence. I think that's what he stood on. I think also having our opportunities, and I think education. And I think education, and also obviously your neighbor. Be important to treat your neighbor right and respect, humility, and I think the same principles that he had back then still rings true now. And if you can live by those basic principles, I think you can do okay.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. It's a hard thing to get people to come to the table and agree to have the conversations. What do you think we can do to further that coming to the table?
First of all, you got to be unapologetic of who you are and your roots. And then I think also in the same sense as you got to respect others, and also sit down and be able to have a conversation with somebody that maybe doesn't look like you, didn't grow up like you, and get a chance to understand and have respect for everybody's heritage. But first of all, not being apologetic of who you are.
I think the civil rights movement from the 60s is even more important now, given the political climate and the climate of neighbors and people. And so we're glad to have you here.
Now, here's a question. As a professional athlete, did you see and or experience racism at your level in professional sports, and if so, how?
Well, I think I have. I mean, there's different instances, but I think I also look at it as all people in some kind of way have either racism or discrimination. But I think the one thing is, if the more you're educated, the more you have a foundation of my parents or what Dr. King did, being able to handle situations. The one thing is, too much is given, too much is expected. So I think the one thing is, as a professional athlete, and more important now, you being able to share your views. You have a platform. I didn't have social media back then where you can reach the masses, but I think also I had a great sit down on Martin Luther King holiday last year when I got a chance to interview Andrew Young. Okay. And see, everybody uses their platform in different ways. And I think the one thing is, he said, obviously you had guys having different protests, but also he gave the advice to me and other athletes, and I'm a former athlete, so the way you live your life is a way, that's a platform to be an example as well.
We talk a lot on the show about the activism or lack thereof on the part of some professional athletes. What do you think a pro athlete's position should be? Should they be considered activists? Should they take an active role, particularly given their influence and exposure?
First of all, I would say my generation versus this generation, they're light years above what we've got a chance to do. Not saying that we weren't, but they have come together in the masses, and that's what you usually can be able to attack different issues when you come together in numbers. And they've done that, led by a lot of superstars. But I think also we all have our platform. But the one thing I do disagree with some people, I guess, criticizing different athletes on the way they would like to make a difference. There's some athletes that do a lot that just want to remain quiet. But I think because of the bigger their name, people expect them to be the loudest. Coming from Andrew Young, I take a lot of his advice. He said, you respect everybody's platform and respect how everybody wants to be on that platform. Some want to be quiet, some want to be loud, but you should respect the different strokes.
Hey, this is Dr. J.
Hi, this is Rika Ketchum.
This is John Hollinger, Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Memphis Grizzlies. Tim Brown, NFL Hall of Fame inductee. You are listening to R&R on Sports.
And here we are with our iConversation segment. And as always, we are bringing you another icon. Today, we have with us one of the most iconic figures of the National Basketball Association ever, Mr. Earl the Pearl Monroe. Earl, welcome to R&R on Sports.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be with you guys.
Where does the Pearl come from? Where did that name, the Pearl, derive?
Well, I had a lot of nicknames, to say the least. But in college, my senior year in college at Winston-Salem State, I was averaging about 50 points a game for the first 10 games of the season.
You said what?
Wait a minute. You said averaging?
Wait a minute. Back up. You said averaging 50 points a game?
Well, yeah. I wound up with like 41 points a game for the season. So, I kind of slacked off a little bit. But I, like I said, I was scoring almost 50 points a game for the first 10 games. And I got rid of a column. And the caption of the column was, "These are Earl's Pearls."
Oh.
And, I guess being down south, like I was, they always cut things a little bit short. And that became Earl the Pearl.
Great.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Talk about that for a little bit. I mean, certainly our audience has current players' upbringing and background to compare to, but talk a little bit about your coming up and how you even ended up at Winston-Salem State.
I actually I started playing basketball when I was about 14 years old. I was walking down the hall, and the basketball coach came up to me and asked me if I played basketball.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "No, sir."
Well, you're about to, huh?
Yeah, that's what he said. So I, he said, "Come down to the gym this afternoon." And I went down to the gym, and I kind of fell in love with the game. Now, previously I had played soccer, and I had also played baseball. And I had seen guys playing basketball, but never really was that interested in it until I went down there and started playing.
Wow, you had played soccer. Now you grew up in Philly, right?
Right.
Okay.
So were you as innovative?
I played soccer for 4 or 5 years, even up into high school, all except for my senior year in high school.
That's interesting.
Soccer.
That's interesting. Did that soccer background help you in any way in terms of playing basketball?
Well, I tell you what, I could run all day long.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I want our listeners to know that Earl the Pearl Monroe still looks like he could take you to the hole. He looks good, man. He looks real good. Got the pleasure of seeing him recently at the Martin Luther King event here in Memphis at the Civil Rights Museum.
Right.
Earl, I know for a fact that you are one of the most innovative minds, obviously, on the court. But can you talk about how that innovation has been has revealed itself off the court. You were one of the first shoe endorsers with a shoe made by Jordache, the jean company. You've had restaurants. You've had entertainment companies. You still have artists and music. Talk about the innovation that you've and the creativity that your career has displayed off the court.
Well, I guess it all boils down to the fact of, not being conventional. My game wasn't a conventional game. So consequently, most of the things that I've done weren't the norm, so to speak. And I've always kind of thought outside of the box. And, shaking and baking.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I laughed. When you said that, because when you said unconventional, I have this picture or these pictures in my brain of you coming down the floor in full control of yourself and the ball and everything else, but it really didn't look like it. I mean, because you were shaking and baking, man, and I came through at a time when everybody that I played ball with tried to emulate those moves and whatnot. That was absolutely part of your game.
Is that how you got that knot on your head, by trying to imitate the Pearl?
No. This is a recent knot. I quit trying to be like him a long time ago.
Well, interestingly enough, All-Star Week is coming up here in New York.
Right.
And so, we're looking to try and do, a number of things. Now, I have a picture of myself playing against Norfolk State when Bobby Danrich was there.
Uh-huh.
And there's a picture of me with 5 guys around me from Norfolk State, Bobby being one of them.
Uh-huh.
And we're trying to get him to come on in and sign this picture. He won't sign it.
You don't posterize. You posterized him before it was posterizing.
We had fun with it. Bobby's a good friend of mine, and we both from the CIAA conference.
Right.
And we had a lot of fun when we played down there.
You had a film called Black Magic. That was that documentary on HBCU ball, and I wonder, is there something? Are we missing something by not having the younger players go back and play at the HBCUs and that culture that seems to be, I guess, somewhat gone away?
Well, yeah, that culture is gone. I remember my college coach, Big House Gaines. As a matter of fact, when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we were sitting down talking, and he said this, and this was back in the late 70s, early 80s. He said that, basketball as we knew it down south will never be the same, because back in the late 60s, the white universities started to recruit black players.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't an awful lot. I mean, you look at the ACC, Charlie Scott was the first one in the ACC. And we talk about Perry Wallace. He was the first one in the SEC.
Right.
So it wasn't a lot of players, but, they started to filter in. And the more players that started to filter in, the more players looked away from the historically black institutions. Now, prior to that, the historically black institutions had their pick of whoever they wanted. Mm-hmm. And they had great teams in all the different conferences, and great players in all these different conferences. And when you think in terms of being able to go to the next level, that wasn't available to us. It was only 10 to 12 teams back in the early 60s. And, of course, it started to grow, by 67, 68, 69,
right.
71, another expansion, and so forth and so on. But there were only, those 12 teams, and they had quotas. black guys on a team.
Mm-hmm.
So there was really no place else for guys to go when they graduated from school. So this documentary, Black Magic, was more or less depicting those guys and what happened to a lot of those guys and how it was in the South. Back in those days, being a black ball player.
There was something that happened back then that doesn't even happen today. Were you not the second player overall selected in the draft?
Yeah. Well, I did average 41 points a game.
Yeah. But from an HBCU, that doesn't happen today. I mean, typically the number 2 pick overall would not be a player from an HBCU. Now, of course, they wouldn't have had your your credentials, but that doesn't even happen today.
No, well, it probably won't happen again because of the fact of the migration of all the black players to historically white institutions.
Right.
But at the same time, you got to kind of go with the flow and do the best you can wherever you can. There's a lot of players that are in these historically black institutions that have a lot of game, but they don't get the the recognition. Nobody sees them play, so nobody drafts them. Nobody even goes to those conference games to see what they have. So hopefully somewhere along the line, we could see something a little bit better than this. I think the scouting system is kind of is flawed in the sense that everybody has the same people on their scouting board, and there are no surprises. And I think that's the genuineness of real scouting, to really find that diamond in the rough, not the guy everybody knows is going to make it.
Right. I was thinking. Back in the day when I was coming up, in my mind, the Caucasian version of Earl the Pearl was Pistol Pete Maravich. He just, to me, he just emulated you or tried to emulate you all over the place. Did you ever have any contact or relationship with Pistol Pete?
Pistol and I were cool. We even traveled to China together, in the 80s and whatnot. We had a couple runners, as players and whatnot, but my last hurrah in the league, my last season, he and I had a big shootout up in Boston.
Wow.
And so that was that was cool. I really appreciated that little segment of our career.
Right.
But Pistol, it wasn't so much as Earl that, Pistol was a globetrotter. And if you look at all his videos of, working out and so forth, it's all globetrotter tricks.
Okay.
And he had them down pat.
Okay. I don't think I knew he was a globetrotter.
He was a great talent, man.
Yeah.
Well, Earl, listen, I mean, there's no way we can do justice to this interview in this short amount of time. So I'm going to ask you in front of all of our listeners if you would be sure, will you promise that we can do this again and we can talk about today's athletes and everything that you got going on?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with more R&R right after this.
It goes electric wavy when I turn it on.
Color.
Hey, this is Ice. I'm the original gangster. And whenever I'm hanging out with Coco and we just chilling on Saturdays, we always listening to Howard and Larry on R&R on Sports. You know what I'm saying?
Color.
Hey, this is Dr. J.
Hi, this is Rika Ketchum. This is John Hollinger, Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Tim Brown,
NFL Hall of Fame inductee. You are listening to R&R on Sports.
Take a sip on my secret potion. I'll make you fall in love. First love that can't be broken. One
And we're back with Mark Spears, senior NBA writer with The Undefeated. Mark.
No, man, you got to give him more than that. He's the baddest NBA writer in all of NBA journalism. Let's give him that.
Go ahead. You just did. You just did. All right.
He got the best stories.
All right.
He's got the best stories.
Greatest of all time.
I need y'all to be my Flavor Flav.
Hey, there you go. Hype.
Larry is wearing a large clock. One of the things that I love about The Undefeated and the things that you write is that you really get the pulse of not just the NBA, because yes, it is sports, but it's so much deeper than that. You're able to tell the stories. You're able to put the humanitarian perspective on it. And you also have women that are writing, and it's a shift. Great women that are writing amazing pieces. It's a shift. How did you incorporate women into a male-dominated environment?
Well, that credit has to go to Kevin Merida.
Yeah.
Our editor. And you know, The Undefeated isn't just sports stuff, too. It's
right.
Entertainment, it's politics.
Now, you know, we know a whole lot about The Undefeated, man.
Yeah.
Our girl that used to be on R&R is now up there with you guys, Kelly Evans. Yeah.
She's still giving us some Memphis love in there.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
There you go. Holland story. But, you know, we have a great collection of journalists, and that I'm very, very proud to be a part of it. Like, the day of the inauguration is one of those days where, you know, I get a lot of hits for my stories, and I might be leading in that regard, but that day, like inauguration day, or when there have been things socially that have happened in the past, police killing black men and this, that, or the other, or what happened in Dallas, like that's when I think our site is really, really special, and it steps up, and it makes me realize, like, what I'm writing about is cool and great, but the social stuff we write about is really, really special, and I'm really proud to be a part of, you know, this new venture that I hope everybody supports, and it's been great because I haven't had just black people say they read it. I've had old white males who you would never think would read it, you know? And I just think there's so much that people can learn from our site and will continue to learn, whether it's about sports, whether it's about entertainment, whether it's about politics. We got it all there, and we keep it real.
And that segues perfectly into the next question. We had Kevin on at the very beginning when the Undefeated was launched. Talk a little bit more about how it has been received during this first year. And, I mean, give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, any pushback you've gotten, challenges you've had, or whatever. How's it been the first year?
I mean, there's always going to be some challenges. We're still trying to completely figure out our identity, but I think we've forced ourselves into being a brand. Mm-hmm. People know who we are. And it just so happened that we launched at a time when there was a lot of social activism. There was a lot of stuff going on in the black community. You know, we had Kaepernick, we had police shootings.
Yeah.
There's just so much, you know, the election stuff. There's just so much going on.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, yeah.
Stick around.
And it launched at a great time for that because of what's coming ahead. So I think Kevin Merida did a fantastic job of putting a kind of a dream team of journalists together, and at a time when I don't know if the timing couldn't have been better for it to be launched and it to be born, because we really need it right now.
Mm-hmm. This is R&R on Sports, and we're speaking with Mark Spears of The Undefeated. Mark, you've written a lot of very powerful stories. I mean, one, The Color of Love with Dirk Nowitzki. You've written about, you know, the issues even with Popeye Jones and his son playing hockey. What are some of your favorite pieces that you've written over the years when you finished up and you said, man, I did it on this one? It really feels good to submit this one.
It was a video piece, but I'm I was really proud of the Stephon Marbury thing I did.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great
and
piece.
I credit the Sports Center and the Undefeated and Tencent, which is basically our ESPN China folks, for allowing me the opportunity to go to Beijing, spend 4 days with Stephon Marbury to do a really beautiful video piece and a written piece, you know, and that was something I'm very, very proud of. I also did a video piece on Chris Dunn,
Right.
the craziness of his childhood,
Right.
that I'm really proud of. There's been a lot of different stories. I think the thing is, it's allowed me to tell stories again. You know, like so much of journalism has gone into quick hits and rumors and give me the news, but that stuff dies, you know. But when you write about Dirk and him being married to a woman with a Kenyan, you know, with Kenyan background, and he's German, or you write about have a roundtable discussion about with white NBA players about the lack of black NBA players, or write a story about how there's only 4 black general managers in the NBA. Like, to me, that stuff has impact. It starts a conversation.
Absolutely.
And it is also read for a while. Like, the Dirk story is still being read. It's still getting hits.
That's a beautiful story.
So I'm proud to be doing that kind of journalism again.
I think those stories being kicked off. We have Van Gundy, who's now being very vocal about issues. You have Popovich, who's being very vocal about issues. How do you continue those conversations going forward?
You know what? Hopefully the journalists won't be shy. I mean, I can't do it by myself. You know, I mean, I had a story last week about how the Hawks general manager said some racial things about his own family.
I'd like to know what happened when he got home. I'd like to know what happened.
You know, that he got reprimanded for by the Hawks.
It took them a minute to do it, though.
Yeah, but who's writing about it?
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wrote about it. The Atlanta Constitution and Journal basically, we'll worry about the Falcons being in the playoffs. You know, kind of turned their back to it. We'll worry about
Sweep
the
it
Kyle
under the
Korver
rug.
grade. Like, they didn't really write anything about it. Nationally, it's really nothing. So that's where it makes me, like, ultra proud to work for the Undefeated, because I'm like, I'm not going to let that story just go away without there being some kind of final word on what happened.
This is Mark Spears from the Undefeated
Get rid of me
on
already, man.
R&R.
This is a podcast.
Well, I got one more question.
No. We only got a few minutes left. We want to know about some hoop. Now, you just mentioned the Thunder and Russell, and so that makes me think of Russell Westbrook. Is he the MVP? Is he your early season MVP?
I probably have to give it to Harden.
Really?
That's what I was going to say.
And you know, I lay a lot of it on record. And I'm very stunned on the success that the Rockets have had. You know, the Harden you see is.
And you don't diminish his results with Mike D'Antoni, because Mike D'Antoni has done this.
Mike D'Antoni was brilliant.
Yeah, but he's done this with every point guard that he's ever had, even as much as Raymond Felton in New York, Jeremy Lin in New York.
Jeremy Lin did that for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the hair.
Felton,
he's still eating off that 2 weeks.
I'm stunned that as we speak, that the Houston Rockets have the 3rd best record in the Western Conference and are only a game behind the Spurs.
Yep.
I would have never guessed that.
No.
And their roster ain't the greatest now. They don't have a bunch of all-stars. They got one guy.
But they're sticking together.
So, I actually picked James Harden for MVP before the season because I just knew that D'Antoni's offense would be great for him.
Right.
But I didn't know it was going to be this good. And Russell's been a triple-double machine, but Oklahoma City's 12 games behind the Warriors, where Houston's actually in reach of challenging it.
Overall, how do you see the state of the union of the NBA at this point?
Very healthy, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Cha-ching.
A lot of young talent, and there's a lot of young talent coming on the way. This draft in 2017 is going to be the best in years. It's going to be very, very special. So,
now, why do you say that? Why do you say that?
It's deep, man. Yep. There's a lot of. This is like I'm watching college basketball now, maybe even more so than the NBA, because there's just so many good, great young players.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I mean, Kentucky has, like it always has, a bunch of guys, but this is definitely a point guard draft. They have great future starting point guard, future star point guards at Washington, at UCLA, at North Carolina State, at Kentucky. This is definitely a point guard draft, but there's just a lot of talent. Josh Jackson in Kansas is going to be elite. This is a draft that might end up having 2 or 3 or 4 Hall of Famers. I just think it's very, very special, and financially the NBA is great, and the talent of the future is just as great.
What's going to happen with Rondo over in Chicago?
I think he looked good with the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
So it's just the days are numbered, huh?
I really believed he looked good. I think the coach is tripping, to be honest, and not just using them correctly, just messing with them for some reason or another. There's some other things going on there, but he makes $14 million, and I don't know that. We'll see if somebody wants that contract, but I still think Rondo has some good basketball left in him.
So Steve Kerr said that he preferred baked, not smoked. Do you think the NBA should relax the marijuana policy for pain relief rather than
I mean, like, I'm the only
opiates?
dude in Oakland who doesn't smoke weed, so
you got
That's the truth.
We were there last year, Jack, and they were getting high on the steps of City Hall.
Each his own. I mean, they haven't banned alcohol, so. I live in California. It's very liberal here, so I think that every sport should just let it be and not think it's a big deal. I don't know why we're fighting this still. It's kind of silly, actually.
I agree.
Mark Spears, we want to thank you for being
he's got to
here
come
with
back.
us on R&R.
He's got to come back, man. You got to come back, Mark. We got
you
so
guys
many.
got a T-shirt, a mug, or something?
We gonna make sure it's
I'll make sure
all of that.
I'll make sure that you get some barbecue, the best barbecue, and that you actually get to eat it.
Yeah, we can do that,
But it's not going to be quirkies.
We can FedEx you some Q.
The real Q, not.
I'm looking forward to seeing it on Saturday.
I might need an address.
Yeah, we just send me the address, brother. We're gonna get it to you.
I remember some other show I did in Baltimore, and
we ain't got nothing to do with that, man. We ain't got nothing to do with
it. They sent me the best crab cakes I ever had in my life, so I'm looking forward to this barbecue.
All right. And we will be back with more R&R. We want to thank you. Keep contributing to the narrative like you are, brother. Back with more R&R on Sports right after this.
Hello, everybody. This is Tim Brown, NFL Hall of Fame inductee, and you are listening to R&R on Sports.
And we are on our way out of here. We are starting again to talk about, particularly to men, of which make up the predominance of our audience. Listen, you need to go get yourselves checked out physically.
TAP.
Go to the doctor. TAP.
You know what TAP stands for, Howard? You know what it's an acronym for?
What is it an acronym for, Larry?
There's a problem.
There's a problem.
There's a problem.
Now, that doesn't have to be a problem, but you certainly won't know if there's a problem if you don't get yourself checked out. And the analogy that we use is that with the same determination and commitment that you use to get your car checked out regularly on a regular basis, get the oil change, get everything, all of the fluids looked at and all of the mechanism looked at.
So you saying that they need to go get their fluids looked at?
They need to get their oil checked, baby. Yes, get yourself checked out. I mean, there's so many things that men, health issues that men have, and the worst thing that you can do is ignore them or not. Ignorance does not count. I mean, will die.
It's just like this, brother. It's just like this, brother, that started the phenomenal website World Star. You know, here he is, young cat, 43 years old, dies of a heart attack.
Yes.
And you can't tell me that there weren't some issues, some pre-warning signs that he should have taken care of. Look, guys, if you're driving down the car and you hear some kind of weird clanking, first thing you're going to do is take your car to the shop to see what's wrong. I'm asking you, imploring that you go out there, take your body to the car shop, the doctor, the primary care physician, internal medicine, whoever. Go see somebody and make sure that everything's working properly.
And with that, we want you to check us out next week, same place, same time. Y'all have a fantastic week, and we will be back with more R&R on Sports. And
make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Go to iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Google Play, wherever. Find the podcast, subscribe, and once you subscribe, rate the podcast, and then share it with your friends.
We're out of here. R&R out.
Hey!
R&R on Sports is recorded live at LPI Studios in the heart of Memphis, Tennessee. Web designer Daniel Coates, executive producer Larry Robinson, written by Howard Robertson, and produced by Reggie Fine. R&R on Sports, part of the Kutsukian Network.